I funded my sister's luxury wedding and apartment, until she banned my family, and I answered with a move that wrecked her entire ceremony. I never thought I'd be that guy, the one posting on Reddit at 2 a.m., venting about family drama. But here I am, sitting in my office, a glass of bourbon in my hand, staring at the remains of what was supposed to be my sister's perfect wedding. I paid for it all, the venue, the flowers, the catering, the fancy designer dress. And what do I get in return? A casual, "Oh, by the way, don't bring Emily or the kids. They don't fit the luxury theme." Yeah, that's what my sister Vanessa told me. I should have seen it coming. Heck, I did see it coming, but I guess there was still some part of me, some naive, hopeful part, that believed she had even an ounce of respect left for me. Turns out I was wrong. The moment it broke me happened the night before the wedding. Vanessa had booked a table at one of those pretentious rooftop restaurants where a tiny plate of food costs more than my employees make in a day. I showed up thinking it was just a last-minute briefing about the ceremony. Instead, she dropped that bombshell between sips of overpriced wine. "Oh, by the way," she said, barely looking up from her phone, "I need you to come solo tomorrow. Emily and the kids, well, they don't really fit the aesthetic." I thought I misheard her. "What?" She sighed like I was the slow one. "James, come on, you know what I mean. It's going to be a luxury event. High-class guests, professional photographers, everything has to look perfect. And Emily, she's sweet, but she's a little rustic." Rustic. That's the word she used, like my wife was some outdated piece of farm equipment instead of the woman who stood by me when I was nothing. Like my kids, my own kids, were some kind of embarrassment to her grand event. I felt my jaw clench, my fingers curling into fists under the table, but Vanessa just kept scrolling through Instagram, completely unfazed. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice steady. "You don't want my wife and children at your wedding because they're not fancy enough?" She smiled like I had finally caught up. "It's just for the optics, James. You understand." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly, and let me guess, I'm still paying for everything? Of course, she laughed. Like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You're the big brother. That's what you do." I stared at her for a long moment, something inside me twisting and snapping at the same time. And then I smiled. "You're right," I said, nodding. "That's exactly what I do." I picked up my drink, finished it in one gulp, and stood up. "You'll get everything you deserve tomorrow, Vanessa." I walked out of that restaurant without another word, but the moment I got into my car, I pulled out my phone. "Hey," I said when the call connected, "change of plans for the wedding. Get everything ready. We're going to make this a day she'll never forget." Flashback. The signs were always there. Looking back, I should have known. Vanessa never really respected Emily. I remember the first time I brought Emily to a family dinner. We had just started dating, and I was excited, naive even, to introduce her to everyone. Emily wanted to make a good impression, so she brought a homemade apple pie she spent hours perfecting, making sure it was just right. We walked into my parents' house, the smell of roasted meat and expensive wine filling the air. My mom greeted us, my dad nodded from his usual spot at the bar, and then Vanessa waltzed in wearing some overpriced designer dress, looking Emily up and down like she was a bug under a microscope. "Oh," she said, forcing a smile, "you actually baked something. That's cute." Emily just smiled, holding out the pie. I thought it would be nice to bring something homemade. Vanessa barely touched it. In fact, later that night I found it untouched in the trash. That was just the beginning. She always forgot to invite Emily to family gatherings. She made backhanded comments about her simple style. She once introduced Emily to her friends as James's little country project. I let it slide for years, but this, telling me my wife and kids weren't good enough for her wedding, that was the final straw. Present day, the calm before the storm. I'm sitting here now, hours after the wedding, reading the messages flooding my phone. Vanessa is losing her mind. Guests are confused. The internet is having a field day. Because Vanessa wanted a perfect wedding, and I made sure she got exactly what she deserved. So the wedding, I know you all have been waiting for this. Buckle up. After Vanessa told me my wife and kids weren't luxurious enough for her wedding, I decided to give her exactly what she wanted, a wedding she'd never forget. And oh boy, did I deliver. I arrived at the wedding alone, just as Vanessa requested. Black tux, calm expression, smiling at everyone like nothing was wrong. Because in just a few hours, Vanessa's dream wedding was about to turn into something else entirely. The venue was breathtaking. Chandeliers, marble floors, a floral arch straight out of a magazine. I should know. I paid for it. The guests were high society types, dressed to impress, sipping champagne like they were at an exclusive gala. Every single one had been carefully selected by Vanessa. No ordinary people allowed. The bride stood at the front, glowing in her designer dress, soaking up the admiration. She had no idea what was coming. The first surprise, everything was going smoothly, too smoothly. The guests were seated, the music started playing, and Vanessa began walking down the aisle. That's when the first special delivery arrived. A staff member wheeled in a massive, beautifully wrapped gift box, placing it right in the center of the ballroom. It was the picture of elegance, Tiffany blue with a golden bow, standing out like a centerpiece. Vanessa paused mid-walk, beaming. She thought it was another grand gift from me. The priest hesitated. The guests whispered. "James," Vanessa called out sweetly, tilting her head. "What is this?" I stood up from my seat, adjusted my cufflinks, and smiled. "Just a little something special for you, sis. Go ahead, open it." She laughed softly, motioning for one of her bridesmaids to pull the ribbon. The box popped open, and then chaos. 6 live chickens. Yes, chickens, real clucking, flapping, running, shot out of the box like fireworks. Wings flapping, feathers floating through the air. One landed on the wedding cake, another jumped onto Vanessa's dress. A third took off straight toward the guests, knocking over a very expensive champagne tower. Screams, people scrambling from their chairs, glass breaking. A guest tripped over a tablecloth, sending an entire tray of hors d'oeuvres crashing to the floor. And Vanessa, she went into a panic. "What is happening?" she shrieked, desperately trying to shake a chicken off her lace train. And me? I was just standing there watching it all unfold. The second surprise, the big reveal. The chickens were just the warm-up act, because while Vanessa was spinning in circles panicking over her dress, the ballroom lights dimmed. The massive LED screen at the front of the room flickered on, and then, in perfect HD clarity, a video started playing. It was Vanessa, every single awful thing she had ever said about me, my wife, and my kids, all caught on audio. Clip 1, Emily is sweet, but let's be honest, she's just a farm girl who got lucky. She wouldn't know real class if it stared her in the face. Clip 2, James is so easy to manipulate. He just throws money at me because he feels guilty for being successful. Clip 3, honestly, I don't even like kids. I don't want my wedding to look like a daycare. Clip 4, the final crushing blow, James is ridiculous. He'll pay for anything. Watch me take full advantage of it. Silence, complete silence. The guests stared at the screen. Vanessa stood frozen, her face drained of all color. Her fiancé turned to look at her like she was a stranger. Her new in-laws murmured to each other, exchanging looks of pure disbelief. And then came the final piece of the plan, the knockout punch. I picked up the mic, adjusting my suit like I was about to give a business presentation. My voice was smooth, controlled. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry you had to hear that. I mean, really, who could have recorded those? Terrible timing, huh?" She spun toward me, shaking with anger. You set me up," she shrieked. I shrugged. "Set you up, Vanessa? I just played back your own words. You did this to yourself." She lunged for the mic. I stepped back. "Oh, and one more thing," I said, my voice cool and even. "That luxury apartment I bought you as a wedding gift? Yeah, that's no longer yours." A legal representative stepped forward, handing her official documents. "I just transferred the deed to a nonprofit that provides housing for struggling farm families. Seemed more fitting, don't you think?" Her mouth dropped open. Her fiancé's mother gasped. Her fiancé took one last look at her and walked out. Just like that. Wedding over. The aftermath. The final scene. Security escorted Vanessa out. The guests whispered. Some recorded the entire thing, and yes, it went viral. Vanessa tried calling me, texting me, begging. I didn't answer. Instead, I took my wife and kids out for dinner, somewhere warm, somewhere we were actually welcome. As we laughed over burgers and milkshakes, Liam, my 8-year-old, looked up at me. "Daddy, will Aunt Vanessa still have a wedding?" I smirked, taking a sip of my coffee. She had one, but it just wasn't the one she expected. I thought I was done. I really did. But Vanessa just couldn't let it go. After the wedding disaster, I ignored every call and message. My wife and I took our kids on a weekend getaway to the countryside, just fresh air, good food, and zero drama. But by the time we got back, my phone was filled with hundreds of missed calls, texts, and voicemails from Vanessa, my parents, and even some of her former in-laws. Apparently the whole thing had blown up online, and Vanessa, she wasn't taking it well. The internet never forgets. Some of the wedding guests had recorded everything, the chickens, the video, her fiancé walking out, and uploaded it to social media. Within hours, the clips had gone viral. Headlines popped up everywhere. Luxury wedding turns into absolute chaos. Bride humiliated in front of hundreds. What happened? The wedding that will go down in history. Comments flooded in. She really thought she could insult her brother's family and get away with it. Karma hit fast. Not going to lie, the chickens were a genius move. James is the MVP for donating the apartment to actual hardworking people. Imagine losing your husband and your house in the same night. Vanessa's perfect image. Destroyed. She had spent years curating this flawless high society persona, posting pictures of expensive brunches, designer clothes, exclusive parties. But now people were dragging her through the mud. And worst of all, her ex-fiancé's family had completely cut her off. Vanessa's downfall. I finally gave in and answered one of her calls. The second I picked up, she was hysterical. "James, fix this," she wailed. "You have to tell people it was all a joke. Say it was fake. Do something." I sighed. "Vanessa, I didn't post the videos. Your guests did. Maybe you should have treated people better." "I did nothing wrong," she screamed. "You ruined my life." I rubbed my temples. "No, Vanessa, you did that yourself when you told me my wife and kids weren't good enough for you." She let out a frustrated scream. "You don't get it. My life is over. Jackson's family won't speak to me. My friends won't be seen with me. My job." She cut off. I raised an eyebrow. "Your job?" Silence, and then she muttered, "I got fired, James." I blinked. "Wait, what?" Turns out her company didn't like the bad press. Some of her clients saw the videos and decided they didn't want to be associated with someone who openly insulted working-class families. So her boss, who had always been so proud of her classy demeanor, decided to let her go. She was completely on her own. No job, no fiancé, no apartment, no family willing to help. Vanessa Carter had officially hit rock bottom. The last straw. Mom and Dad get involved. Not even 20 minutes after hanging up with Vanessa, my parents called. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but I already knew what they wanted. I answered with a simple, "What?" "James," my mom sighed, "you've made your point. Don't you think it's time to let this go?" I actually laughed. "Let it go? You mean like how Vanessa let my wife and kids get completely disrespected?" "She's your sister," Dad chimed in, using his classic fatherly authority tone. "You need to help her. She has nothing now." "That's not my problem," I said flatly. "James, she's family," Mom snapped, "and family forgives." Oh, now they cared about family, now that Vanessa was suffering. I took a deep breath. "All right, fine, I'll help." Mom sounded relieved. "I knew you'd do the right thing, sweetheart. Thank you." "Yeah," I said, smirking. "I'll help the way Vanessa helped Emily when she needed support. I'll help the way Vanessa included my kids in her wedding. I'll help the way she respected my hard work all these years." Silence. "That's what I thought," I said, and hung up. Where is she now? It's been 6 months since the wedding disaster. Vanessa tried to make a comeback, rebranding herself online, pretending to be some humble, changed woman after her tragic fall from grace. No one bought it. She's currently living in a small rental apartment, working a job that pays a fraction of what she used to make. Her fancy social circle, gone. The high-end lifestyle, over. As for me, my wife and I are doing better than ever. My kids are happy, my business is thriving, and best of all, I'm free. No more being used, no more guilt, no more toxic family dynamics. Liam asked me the other day, "Daddy, do you think Aunt Vanessa will ever come visit us?" I smiled, ruffled his hair, and said, "She made her choice, bud, and we made ours. And for the first time in years, I feel at peace." It's been a year since Vanessa's wedding, the one that turned into a complete disaster. I thought that was the last I'd hear from her, but life has a funny way of bringing things full circle. Because last night she showed up at my restaurant, and she looked nothing like the Vanessa I used to know. A year of karma. A lot has changed since the wedding. My business exploded after the wedding drama went viral. More people started coming to my restaurants. Turns out people love supporting a guy who stands up for his family. We expanded to 5 new locations, including one in the heart of the city. It was my dream to open a flagship restaurant, and last night was our grand opening. My wife is thriving. She started a small organic food business, working directly with local farmers, including her parents. My kids are happier than ever, no more being treated like less than by their own family. And Vanessa, well, she didn't exactly land on her feet. She bounced between a few low-paying jobs, but every time a new employer found out about the wedding scandal, she got let go. No one wanted to be associated with her. Her old friends abandoned her, her reputation gone, her lifestyle over. Vanessa's desperate plea. Last night she walked into my restaurant looking like she had the weight of the world on her shoulders. No more designer clothes, no diamonds, no perfect hair, just plain jeans, a simple coat, and tired eyes. She hesitated at the entrance, then slowly walked up to me. James. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I crossed my arms. Vanessa. She looked around at the restaurant, at the packed tables, the elegant decor. The place was buzzing with energy. This was my success, something I built, and for the first time in her life, I think she actually saw it. Can we talk? She asked. I studied her face. A year ago, I would have laughed in her face, but now I just felt indifferent. Fine, I said, leading her to a quieter corner. She took a deep breath. James, I messed up. I know that now. I said nothing, just waited. I lost everything, my job, my reputation, my friends. Jackson won't even speak to me. Mom and Dad, they can't help me. She swallowed hard. I need a fresh start, and I was hoping... She hesitated, then she said it. I was hoping you could give me a job. I stared at her. Of all the things I expected her to say, that wasn't one of them. A job? I repeated. Yes, she nodded quickly. I know I don't deserve it, but I need to start over, and you're the only one left. For a moment, I actually considered it. Not because I wanted to help her, but because I wanted to see if she had actually changed. So I asked, why should I hire you? She blinked. What? Why should I give you a job? I repeated. What do you bring to the table? She floundered. I can learn. I can do customer service or maybe marketing. Marketing? I interrupted. You mean the way you marketed me as a fool who'd pay for anything? She flinched. Or maybe customer service, I continued. You mean treating people with kindness, the way you treated my wife, my kids? Her face turned red. She had no answer. I sighed and leaned forward. Vanessa, let me make this clear. This restaurant, my success, it happened without you. You spent years looking down on me, calling my family rustic, acting like you were better than us. I shook my head. I don't think you've changed. I think you're just desperate. Her lip trembled. Please, James, I don't have anywhere else to go. I took a deep breath, then made my decision. Vanessa, I said slowly, the answer is no. She looked genuinely heartbroken. So that's it? She whispered. That's it, I nodded. She swallowed, looked down at the floor, and for a moment I thought she might actually cry. But then she took a shaky breath and stood up. Okay, she murmured. I understand. And then she turned and walked out. No screaming, no insults, just silence. And you know what? For the first time since this whole mess started, I actually felt peaceful. Vanessa finally learned that actions have consequences, that treating people like dirt will eventually catch up to you. And me, I was finally free. Mom and Dad's regrets. A few weeks after Vanessa's visit, my parents called. I wasn't surprised. They probably wanted to scold me for not helping her. But when I answered, my mom's voice sounded different. James, she said softly. We need to talk. I sighed. What now? We were wrong, she said. What? We were wrong, she repeated. About you, about Emily, about everything. I stayed quiet. We spent years favoring Vanessa, making excuses for her, expecting you to carry the weight of this, family, and now we see what we did. So what do you want from me? I asked. Nothing, she said. We just wanted to tell you that we're sorry. I wasn't expecting that. For a long moment I said nothing. Then I finally sighed. I appreciate it, but it's too late. James, no, I cut her off. I've moved on. I have a good life, a great family, and a successful business. I don't need validation from people who only realized my worth after they lost everything else. Silence. I hope you two figure things out, I said. But I'm done. And then I hung up. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I just didn't care anymore. Because for the first time in my life, I was truly, completely free.